Hey guys, Mr. Milton here. Today we're going to look at lines in the coordinate plane again, a little bit more. At the end of this video, you should be able to explain how the slopes of parallel lines are related as well as the slopes of perpendicular lines. And you should be able to determine whether two lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither using their slopes. Okay, again, this should be a review for you, but if it's not, good, new information. Okay, parallel lines have the same slope. Perpendicular lines have opposite and reciprocal slopes. Okay, and so what that means, if it's the slope of one line would be, let's say, 2/5, its opposite would be negative 2/5, and its reciprocal, opposite reciprocal, would be negative 5/2. So notice that 2/5 is the opposite reciprocal of negative 5/2. Alright, so let's look at that. In these examples here, it says tell whether the pair of lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So now we're really focused on their slopes. For the first problem, it's kind of nice because they have it set up for us that they're both in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is nice because it shows us the slope right away. In this first problem, we have 1/2 x minus 5 and y equals 2x plus 4. So the slope of this line is 1/2. The slope of the second line is 2. Now our question is, are these the same? Pretty quick no there. Second question is, are they opposite reciprocals? Well, they're reciprocals, but they are not opposites. So the lines are neither. Because the slopes are not the same or opposite reciprocals. I'll just say, in this case, the slopes are not opposite reciprocals. Okay, pretty clearly, they're not the same. Okay, and the second problem is not as easy as the first, in the sense that we don't have the slope isolated already in our first equation. So please remember that just because 5 is by x, that does not mean it's the slope. We will not be able to just identify the slope until y is by itself. So here we will have to get y by itself. Our first step in that process is going to be to subtract 5x from both sides. So minus 5x plus 9. And then we will divide by negative 3. And so then y will equal negative 5 divided by negative 3 is positive. 9 divided by negative 3 is negative 3. Okay, so now that we have this by itself, now we're going to focus on the slopes. And the slope for our first line is actually 5/3. The slope for our second line, because y is by itself, is negative 3/5. Okay, and so these lines are perpendicular. Perpendicular, and we know that because they have opposite reciprocal slopes. Okay. Okay, let's look at this down here really quick, just talking about an example. We have y equals 4. Okay, that is a horizontal line. And x equals negative 3, the vertical line, are perpendicular. Okay, horizontal lines and vertical lines are always going to be perpendicular with each other. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to focus on the slope as much there, even though if we do flip it and have the 0 on the top and the 0 on the bottom and different things, they have, I guess you could say, opposite reciprocal slopes, but not really. So it's kind of a special case. Horizontal and vertical lines are always perpendicular. Okay, so let's look at this other type of problem. It says, write the equation of a line that is parallel to 3x minus 1 that goes to the point negative 2, 6. So what we want to do is we want to find the slope that we'll be using. Okay, in this case it says parallel, so we know we're going to be using the same slope. So what's the slope of this line? 3. What slope will we be using? 3. Okay, and then the next thing is we're going to find the point that we're going to be using. In this case, it's negative 2, 6. So find the slope, find the point, and then we'll use their equation. So I'll just say find the equation. I'll say point. That makes sense to me. Find the slope, find the point, then plug it into the equation. So now I'm going to do what I would usually do, which is slope-intercept form. So y equals mx plus b. I'm going to plug in what I know. I know that my slope will be 3. I know the x of a point that works is negative 2. I know the y of that same point is 6, and I'm going to solve for b. So I have 6 equals negative 6 plus b. Add 6 to both sides. B will equal 12. And so now I'm going to use these two pieces of information for my final equation, and y equals 3x plus 12. Okay. Final question here, it says, write the equation of a line that is perpendicular to 4x minus 2y equals 17. That goes to the point 8, 1. So again, perpendicular, that means we need to find the opposite reciprocal slope. Looking at our equation, we don't know our slope yet. So we need to take this and we need to find our slope. Do that by getting y by itself. So I'm going to get y by itself, subtract 4x from both sides. Negative 2y equals negative 4x plus 17. Then I'll divide by negative 2. Get y all the way by itself. And so we'll get 2x minus 17 over 2. Okay. Important part here is that we know the slope of this line now. The slope of our first line is 2. So if we're going to make a perpendicular, we have to go opposite, which is negative 2, and reciprocal, which will be negative 1/2. Okay, so this will be the slope of our new line. They told us that our point was 8, negative 1. And so now I want you guys to write the equation of the perpendicular line to this, knowing this information. Okay, bring that into class, complete it. So now you should be able to explain how parallel and perpendicular lines are related, and you should be able to determine whether two lines are parallel or perpendicular using their slope. Okay, see ya.